Welcome back to the Win with Dice podcast, a podcast featuring members of the Win with Dice team. I'm Calvin, and I'm joined here by Ramon.
Hey guys, this is your first time listening to the Win with Dice podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about tabletop RPGs. Calvin and I like to take a casual approach to the hobby, and we like to talk about the games that we play in, the games that we run, and just kind of the whole thing. Just kind of demystifying all the aspects of the hobby so you can jump in and maybe even run your own game, have your own table, and be your own GM.
Exactly. So what we are doing for the next couple of weeks is we are taking a look at an RPG that Ramon is working on, the Grand Saga tabletop RPG, name pending, etc., etc. We're looking at some of the classes for the game, which I think are the most interesting part of it, and you can use them to mix and match their different abilities to come up with the exact kind of character that you want to play. So this week we're going to take a look at 3 more of those classes. Before we do, we have to get to the most important part of the show, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week.
Yes, the Win with Dice Weekly GM Tip of the Week, brought to you by Calvin. Thanks, Calvin.
So something that sort of came to mind recently for me is like as a player character, or when you're playing character as a as a player, you don't necessarily have to have the entire character figured out beforehand. You can let their personality develop as you play. That is something that came up for me in something we're recording and working on over on the Untold Stories Project channel. That I think they pretty much announced at this point. It's basically like a Hero High kind of thing. Like Young Justice, Teen Titans, X-Men, teenage superheroes kind of thing.
Nice.
And the character that I'm playing, like, I didn't have, like, there's stuff that I did in some of the, there's some stuff I did in the early, like, test sessions, that sort of helped define the character a bit for me. That kind of ended up being more of that over-talkative, intelligent type, so I have notes of, like, here are some things they might know about, here are some things I could maybe bring up as a thing that a super smart character would ramble about, that I, Calvin, wouldn't have memorized all the time, but I find it now functionally useful for playing that character, and that's something I hadn't done, like, before the game, like, when I was making the character. Just because, as I was playing, like, I realized what direction they were going in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have never made a character 100%. I don't think I've ever played a straight man before, like in my game. Like I've never been the one that's like, yeah, I'm usually the goofy one. I'm the comic relief most of the time. But that always comes out naturally, and like after a couple of sessions. Silrona, when like in Tim Delver and Unintended Consequences, Silrona was not intended to be a wacky cowboy character. I really had no clue what Silrona was going to turn out. They usually just kind of let the character find its niche with the other players, and I'm sure that Teagues didn't need to become Team Mom like every other character that you have. Well, at least only when you're playing. I feel like only when I'm involved you become Team Mom. Every time, like Untold Stories, you're like the rebel kid or something.
Well, to be fair, in the Magical Girls game, since I became the team leader, I'm not exactly Team Mom, but noticeably close.
See, people keep giving you leader positions, that's why. Well, but there you go. There's your tip for the week, folks. Just let your character, sometimes you can prepare your character, but sometimes you gotta let that character breathe and be its own thing and find its niche in like your merry band of other player characters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into this episode. So last time we did this, we covered a few different classes. We went from the Acrobat, the Alchemist, the Arcanist, and the Archer.
So many A names. I may change one of them. I'll figure out which one needs to change.
Well, this week we have another A name as we talk about the Artificier, and then we'll talk about a couple more after this. And then again, as we go on, I do want to try to explain like some of the game mechanics as they relate to the abilities, because that is how people will learn the mechanics.
Yeah, and so let's get into it. So let's start of this podcast with the Artificier. Yes, you channel the energy from your custom power pack into your motorized weaponry to shred through any defenses. You use your parts that you've collected to build and deploy a variety of machines to aid you and your allies in battle. So in that little spiel, that's the idea. It's like you have a power source called heat, which is a gauge. So in Grand Saga, gauges are like a separate resource management. Think of it as like a bar, like in a fighting game, so you can do special moves. So you kind of charge up your heats, and then you could spend that heat to gain shred on attacks. And shred is the way that you can punch through someone's armor and, you know, kind of get through their defenses. So the core ability is Rev, which is a basic physical technique, and it gains 2 heat. So you gain 2 of your heat resource, so you can use it in your attacks and stuff like that.
Yeah, and there are different types of gauges. They're just like resources with a number attached.
Yeah, it's just gauge is kind of like the subheader or whatever, but it's like the I guess the ability is heat, and it's like the currency or whatever you want to say it. Yeah.
Okay.
You can have as many gauges as you want, or you can, and they just typically either you get it at the start of your turn, you get it by interacting with some way, or you use an action to gain that resource.
All right, so let's get into the aspects of the Artificier.
Yes, the aspects. So the class identity for this, the idea of an Artificier to me, it's like, you know, you build gadgets. You're basically, you know, Tony Stark in a cave
with a box of scraps.
With a box of scraps, and you know, it's the idea of you building robots, and you have like a bunch of cool, awesome tools. So the first aspect we have here is flash assembly, which is when you use the deploy action, which is how you kind of put stuff out on the battlefield. You deploy them. You get to deploy up to 2 deployables. So in one action, similar to the Alchemist we spoke about on the last podcast, where you're able to use the use action and to use 2 potions. In this sense, with this aspect, you're able to deploy 2 little robot mens.
So is that like similar to a summon, or?
Yes, it is similar to a summon, but specifically, it's not a summon because it's not magical. It's like you're physically putting the thing out there versus like conjuring something out of nothing. So all of the deployables that you have access to from the Artificier, they all require you to spend parts to activate or to use. So you have to like have the parts on hand to put together to create whatever the thing that you're putting out. So for instance, like a power generator, so you can generate more heat for your attacks, requires 2 parts. It's a size 1 machine. It has 6 HP, and at the start of your turn, you gain 2 heat as long as you can draw a path connecting you. So the idea is like the energy's arcing from the power generator to your power pack, so you can like charge your attacks with it.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess we could just talk about all the deployables you get. So you get a power generator, you get turret, which requires 2 parts, similar to so all of the concept, all of the deployables and summons you'll find in Grand Saga, they all have like start of turn abilities and end of turn abilities, and possibly like on deployment or summon abilities, or there might be like a reaction or some sort of interaction when it dies. But typically, like all that stuff doesn't have their own turn. All the stuff activates on your turn. So whoever owns it on the start of their turn, it activates, and at the end of and if it says end of their turn, at the end of the turn, it activates.
Right, like just some automatic stuff that they do.
Yeah. So turret, it actually generates you a heat, which may or may not stay, but it generates you a heat, as well as it does 1 reliable damage to any target within 8, and then within range 8, and you can spend heat to do another bonus damage on top of that, X bonus damage. So you can just like supercharge your turret with your extra power to just lay into somebody, the closest person.
Okay, I see. And then this is another development thing, because you're saying, so you're not certain if you want to leave the ability for it to gain heat. Like this is a thing you would need to test.
Yeah, I think the turret was probably the first iteration of the deployable, the machinery aspect of the words the Artificier, because the idea was everything should generate heat because you're kind of trying to snowball an effect, right? But it doesn't really make any sense for the turret to generate energy because it should be expending energy.
Right.
Right. But we'll see. I think it's kind of cool that you can like have the turret out. Even if you don't interact with the turret by spending extra heat, you could just have it help you build heat as well. There's also a homing missile, which is exactly how it sounds. But this one has a couple of aspects to it, or different like abilities. So it's airborne. You spend 3 parts. It's HP 6. It's airborne, so it means it flies and it doesn't interact with terrain unless it's airborne, or it ignores like vertical distances and stuff like that. It's diminutive, which means that it is hard to hit. So anything that targets it takes 1 difficulty on trying to hit it, or it gets an accuracy to save. In terms of an NPC targeting it.
Mm-hmm.
And it has logical movement, which means it has to move in a straight, all its movement needs to be straight lines. It can't use a diagonal movement. So it's just kind of like, you're playing Snake. It has to you can't make diagonal moves. But at the end of the turn, it flies 6 spaces, and you can spend extra heat to make it fly even more. And then if it goes adjacent to a foe, that target makes a flat check, so it's a 50-50, and if it passes, or if you make the flat check, and if it passes, it's destroyed, and it does physical damage equal to how much HP it has. So the idea is that you have to shoot down the missile before it gets to you, or the enemy has to shoot down the missile before it gets to you, or they're going to take like 6 damage, which is quite a bit of damage.
Yeah.
As well as a shield generator, so it creates cover terrain, and you can spend heat to reduce the damage as if an adjacent ally or yourself gets hit. And I think that's like all of the deployables. And so let's go into the actual like attacks that you can get from the class. First one here is drill. So it's what it sounds like. It's the idea of this attack. It's a drill. So it's a might basic physical melee attack. It requires you to spend 1 heat to activate, and it does light damage. But any additional heat spent on the attack allows you to move in a straight line X spaces, where X is the amount of additional heat you spend. And you can pass through and destroy parts of terrain, like you're drilling into like walls or objects or the terrain itself. Before you make the attack, so you're kind of like busting through the wall with the drill, and then you can drill into somebody, kind of idea.
You can drill through.
So a bit of like a drill. Yeah, you're gonna drill to the heavens. Calvin says.
I had to.
Yeah. Then there's chainsaw, which is pretty hefty. It requires you to spend 3 heat. But it does heavy damage. It's a basic physical melee attack. Might basic physical melee attack. And any additional heat you spend on the attack, you gain bonus damage, and you shred an additional amount. So it requires a lot of heat to get started. But once it gets started, it's like you could dump a lot of resources into it to kind of destroy, like literally chainsaw somebody in half. Yeah.
Like again, that risk reward thing where you have to spend a lot of something, but you still get like a significant bonus.
Yeah, it's the idea. So it's like you're probably gonna spend an action to gain heat with rev. So you have to like rev the chainsaw a couple times before you're able to get the most out of it. Another aspect is remote detonate. So the idea is that you can blow up your machines if they're on low HP, or you can destroy a wreck. It's a special range 6 technique. So you just have to have the actions available to use this one, and something within range 6. And you do reliable damage based on like to all targets within the blast, and the blast is dependent about how big the target size was. So like a size 2 wreck or machine, or like a deployable that you put out, you can blow it up, and it does a blast radius of 2. It's a blast 2. So it's pretty big, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. There's one more attack called Railgun. So this was an agility, super physical range beam 1 attack, and you basically you deal X bonus damage at X shred, where X is your current heat gauge, and you reduce the heat to 0. So you can charge up throughout the fight, charge up your heat levels to like really high, and then dump it all out into the Railgun. I mean, a really cool thing you could do is like deploy a couple of generators, chill at the back, and then just use your railgun attack as like a...
Just to fire in your laser?
Firing your laser, yeah.
This kind of reminds me of the Bunker character from Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Oh, definitely Bunker was a big inspiration here. Yeah, especially the Power Generator specifically. I remember that card.
Yeah, because that's kind of like, because Bunker goes through his different modes where he's like charging up and then firing and then recharging and that kind of thing.
Yeah. That was the kind of feel where you have to manage your resources and like make sure that just for so like the game loop was attack, charge, attack, charge. That's kind of how the Artificier kind of plays. You have jump jets, which is a technique. You spend a heat and you get to leap 10 because you have booster rockets on your back. Artificier armor. While you have armor, you could generate an extra heat. As long as the idea is like you have like it's like the Tony Stark power suit. So it's like as long as that thing's intact, like you're able to generate more of your resource. And whenever you spend heat by any means, you get to kind of vent. It's the idea is that you're like venting like auxiliary energy, doing one reliable damage to any adjacent foe. So you're still able to, even if you're attacking one foe, you can still do damage to the other person.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm also getting some Lancer vibes from this as well.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. Yes. This is like the first of the robotics kind of flavor of the game that's in Grand Saga. Again, this is a science fantasy. I like to call it the idea. So it's like science fiction merged with fantasy. So there's swords and sorceries and guns and robots and stuff like that. So yeah. Then the last one is salvage, where it's just like if you can make a flat check, and if you do, you can transform like a wreck into parts. So like when machinery, NPCs, or even your deployables get defeated, they don't they aren't removed from the battlefield. They just become like terrain pieces. They become wrecks, which you can further interact with because they're like big bulky machines.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that. That's something you can just do in the middle, like in the battlefield, just like reacquire the things you need to construct more stuff.
Yeah, especially because so none of the deployables require they all require at least 2 parts to use, but you're able to if one of them gets destroyed, you're able to get at least if you're successful, you get a part back. Yeah, right. So, and you possibly able to get 2 parts back on a machine depending on the size of a wreck. So the Artificier is really good with dealing with machines as well, because the mechanical enemies, they have a lot of physical armor that you'd have to bust through to kind of deal significant damage to them.
Do those mechanical enemies also leave wrecks behind when you take them down?
Yes. So all mechanical foes leave wrecks behind.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, you're able to. Your drill will definitely pierce the heavens, and then you get to steal their ship. It is exactly like Gurren Lagann. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm trying to get at.
As it should be.
Although I don't know how to actually do. Actually, wait. I'm pretty sure we can do a Giga Drill Breaker, which with the classes. With like a combination of classes, but specifically using Giga Drill Breaker in the word. But I'm gonna have to we're gonna have to take a look at that later once we go through all the classes.
If we're allowed to use that term.
Yeah. It's not. They don't own Giga Drill and Breaker separately.
Just put extra spaces between the words and it's fine.
Yeah. Giga, pause, drill, pause, breaker. It's fine.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right.
Let's get to the next class that we're looking at today.
Yes. So it's the Bastion. So you are a rock in a storm, holding the line and shielding your allies. You're the master of both physical and magical defense. You use your shield to deflect mighty blows from your foes. Blows from your foes, folks. So this is the shield guy. Captain America, big shield dude. You know how it is. So the core of this class is Shield Master. You get a bonus accessory item slot that you can only use to equip the shield, so it doesn't take up like an inventory space.
Right.
And then while you're equipped with the shield, you reduce damage taken by one stage indicated. So it's like you can reduce super damage to heavy damage and heavy damage to light damage. So just by you holding a shield, you're just taking less damage than everybody else potentially.
Oh, that's actually pretty sweet.
Yeah. And if you take the class as first level, you automatically just get a shield, any shield of your choice. It's like currently there's only 3 types of shields in the game, which I guess I could just go through it. Like heavy shields give an extra accuracy when you're using the brace action. So instead of getting 1 accuracy, you get 2. Spike shield, when you do take the brace action, you just do reliable physical damage to everyone who's adjacent to you because it's a shield made of spikes. And then snap shield, which means you can use the brace action as a reaction while you have that shield equipped.
Oh, that last one sounds pretty good to me.
That one sounds really good to me too.
Especially as a Bastion, yeah.
Yeah, you can just chill until someone targets you, and then you're like, haha!
Not today.
Not today, Satan. I have a shield. But yeah, let's get into the aspects of this class. This class, the identity is dude with shield. Shield protects small friends. I am the wall. So the first aspect we have here is tank, which is you and adjacent allies reduce listed damage taken by 1 to a minimum of 1. So I shouldn't be listed damage. But you reduce damage taken to 1. So like if in case that you're getting like light damage, which is 3, you would reduce that down to 2. If you're taking 2 bonus damage, you reduce that down to 1. That kind of deal. And that can actually lead to some cases where you actually take no damage, because the way that resistance works in Grand Saga, you have to everything rounds down. So all of the rounding in the game rounds down. So if you were to do like 1 damage to somebody, it actually gets half to half damage, which means it rounds down to 0.
Yeah, if they have the resistance for it.
Yeah, if they have the resistance for it, which you will have resistance to this because you're the Bastion, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So there's Bulwark, which is you cannot be forcefully moved by abilities from other combatants. From combatants of the same size or smaller than you. While you're braced, you can't be moved by any ability from any other combatants. So, you just get you're so good at staying in one place. You can't be moved by any other means. I should put a caveat in here. I think teleport should be able to work on you still, but we'll see. We'll see how good the Bastion is. Next one is Stalwart. All these are very much a lot of the Bastion abilities are just kind of passive bonuses that you get. They're not really they are very defensive. So Stalwart, you ignore the first wound that you take and you actually heal your HP bar back up to half. So you're even if you take too much damage as you're trying to like being picked on or focused down by the GM or just like redirecting attacks to you, you can still kind of be in the fight a little bit longer than everybody else.
Cool. So is that like healing half your total HP or half your current HP, or?
So when you take a wound, you have to go beyond 0. So your HP bar would refill back up to half.
Right.
So instead of taking the first wound,
okay. So you ignore the actual wound, and that's the thing that happens when your HP gets to 0, and then you reset it.
Reset it to halfway, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but then it's after which, if you take another wound in that fight, then you're gonna take that wound.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next one is bolster defense. So when you're using the brace action, you and adjacent ally gain resistance on the next damage taken until the start of your next turn. So even if someone gets through with the brace action and you still get hit, you get to take reduced damage. And if you have like tank, it reduces it even further. So, you know, you can really stack a bunch of defensive options for you to just kind of not take a lot of damage.
Yeah, I'm picturing this guy is just standing in front of the Artificier as they charge up with their 2 generators. And then...
yeah, he's just like, I got this. Do not worry, Artificier. No one will get by me. But here's the other cool thing. Because this is kind of a defensive class, I wanted to have a little bit of support ability, not just defensively. But so catapults. Catapult is a basic physical technique. It requires you to have a shield equipped. You target an ally. I think it should be adjacent ally. Target an adjacent ally. Leaps 4, because you kind of like, they jump on your shield and kind of boost them up. You launch them. But if you are bracing, they get leap 6 instead. But on top of like letting them boosting and like launching them in the air, they can use a basic attack as a reaction at the end of their movement. So it's kind of like you get to you like do a little cool combo with them.
Yeah, and that can be whatever abilities or aspects they have access to.
Yeah, so you can, so it's kind of nice because I know that because the Bastion has a lot of defensive options and it's not a lot of attacking options, it's a way for you to add that much more DPS, I guess DPT, damage per turn.
Do that fastball
DPA.
Special.
Yeah, you can do the fastball special and launch them, launch your allies deep into enemy lines. Next one is Iron Defense. You just become while braced, you become immune to reliable damage. So while you're braced up, even though you know you're even if you miss or like successfully save, I should say, an enemy's attack, reliable damage still will be applied to you, but with Iron Defense, you don't get any reliable damage. But also with tank, you also reduce it by half. So I gotta take a look at this one again. Actually, maybe this bonus isn't as good as the other bonus. So
really?
We'll see.
I don't know. I mean, it seems pretty good to me if you get immunity to reliable damage.
Yeah.
But again, this is development, so.
This is development. We'll see if this defensive bonus really overlaps or not. Next one is an attack. It's called Bulldoze. You make a might special physical melee attack. You deal light damage. You knock some back. You deal 3 knockback, and you move adjacent to targets. So you kind of just like slam your shield into them, and you just kind of push them back, essentially.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do love to do an attack and a move in one turn.
Yeah, so that's why it's a special attack, because you get to do both, as well as it's a knockback, which means that you can knock them into something or someone, and they can fall prone, which makes them easier to attack afterwards. The next one is Shield Bash, which is an attack. It's a basic might melee attack. Requires you to have a shield equipped, and you deal light damage, and you also deal 1 knockback. As well as if you're a brace, the knockback becomes 3 instead. So if you're like, you know, readying your shield, you can bash someone out of the way, and do whatever you need to do. Intercept. It's a reaction. So when an ally within range 4 is targeted by an attack, you can move adjacent to them and redirect the attack to you. You take all the damage that would be dealt and apply any effects to yourself. So that kind of like covering motion. Yeah,
there's a thing in Mutants and Masterminds that I think actually has the same name that is largely the same power, and I find it's very effective, especially if you're the type of person who's able to take a hit. It keeps you in a fight, like on other people's turns, which I think is a useful thing in a game.
Yeah, and you're always. I think there's one thing about trying to protect your ally and like actually protecting your ally.
Yeah.
That kind of 2 ways of like thinking about it. So this one, even though you like, also you're applying your defensive stuff to the situation, but you're actually able to like, if you know you, it doesn't matter if you survive the fight if all of your friends are dead.
Exactly.
Right. Next ability, Tenacity. You reduce any damage taken by 1 per status affecting you to a minimum of 1. So if you were stunned or dazed, or not stunned, but like dazed or burning or fatigued, you get to take less damage. So like the more messed up you are, the more that you can take less physical damage, or sorry, damage to like your HP and stuff like that. So you're just kind of tougher than everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the fight's going bad for you, you can still survive a little bit longer. Then there's Zone Out, which is adjacent foes have -1 to their movement on top of any other decreases. So inherently, when somebody's trying to move within engagement, which means adjacent to like an enemy foe, you have to spend 1 extra use of movement to move into or out of adjacency, or like move within adjacency. With Tenacity, now it's like -2, so it's even harder to get. You're even stickier to be around, so it's even harder for enemies to try to peel off of you. Yeah, you're in the way out. You're definitely in the way more. Next one, Tower Shield requires, or Towering Shield, I should say. You're required to have a shield equipped, and while you're braced, you make a /1 area in front of you, so whichever direction you want, counts as line of sight blocking terrain. So you can, for allies, so anybody standing behind you, if someone's trying to, if their attack draws line of sight through those spaces, they can't target your allies. They can only target you. So the idea is like your shield is so big that you're just like literally walling off that area from ranged attacks.
That is
but
cool.
you do. Yeah, but you lose this effect if you move or forcibly moved, or you lose brace. So if someone targets you and you use up your brace, then that opens up your allies for attack afterwards. But it makes it so like ranged units have to target you first, or do something to get rid of your brace, which means you're taking up turns, which means you're being a tank.
Right. And brace, because we've mentioned it multiple times, and I'm blanking out on if we've mentioned how it works before.
Yeah, so brace is the other side of like focus. So focus is the attack-oriented portion, action. Brace is the defensive-oriented action. So you use an action to gain braced, and basically on the next attack that targets you, you get an accuracy on defending yourself, or on the save roll. So you're better at defending yourself while you're braced.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one is kind of that one is kind of based off of Lancer, I believe. I think brace is a reaction you can take, which leaves you at a big deficit. But I wanted like a defensive option.
So it's kind of like a mix of Lancer's brace and Pathfinder 2's raising a shield.
Yes, a mix of both of those things. More so probably Pathfinder, because Raise Shield is like the brace. Like when I'm imagining the Bastion holding up a big ass shield. So yeah. And the last one is Sheltering Shield. It requires you to have an equipped shield. When you use the brace action, you gain cover and also provides cover to adjacent allies until the start of your next turn. So the idea is that cover gives you a bonus on your saves versus enemy attacks. While you're next to somebody, you also so while your allies adjacent to you, on top of like all the other defensive bonuses you get or providing to them, they also just gain cover like they're in cover terrain.
Cool.
Yeah. On top of you have a shield, it's like a lot. Like you can wall up pretty good.
Yeah, I really like this one. I really like how it fits the concept of big shield guy.
Yeah. For sure.
This is the person you stand behind.
Yeah, I always found that like defender classes in games never really feel that defensive, because I guess like then everybody would just be a defender class and then fights would just drag out or whatever. Right, but I wanted to like kind of like every other class in this game, I wanted to like supercharge it to like the expectation, like my kind of like grandiose idea of like what these the fantasy of playing these classes would be. Yeah,
because this class has like a couple or like some limited attack options, but it really shines in its ability to like protect others or slow down enemies and just be like that big frustration. This is the support defense guy. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, well, let's get on to the third one for this episode, the Beast Cloak.
Yes, the Beast Cloak, your spirit, too many words today. Your spirit surges with primal energy. As you take damage, you let loose your ferocity, enhancing your beast-like features to even greater levels of power. You can even transform into a hulking or soaring beast with your Beast Cloak powers. So the core of this class is ferocity. It's a gauge, so you gain 1 ferocity when you take any damage. And you can spend a ferocity to add one knockback on a melee attack. So, and the ability to gain, I guess the gauge ability is roar, basic physical technique. You gain 2 ferocity. A big primal roar, and you're like, I'm so mad. So this idea is kind of fusing like the kind of like animal transforming portion of like a druid class type of class with like a barbarian kind of class where it's like you're just full of primal rage. Instead of Brooklyn rage, it's primal rage.
Primal rage.
Primal rage.
Rage of the primal variety.
Watch out, Ukes. So they have a bunch of stances. I think I kind of alluded to this when we were talking about the example character. But they have a bunch of stances that let them transform. There's 3 of them. The fierce transformation, which you spend a ferocity and you gain +1 bonus damage on attacks, and you have +1 increase physical hit chance. Then there's the hulking transformation, where you actually increase your size to +1. So you become, if you're a size 1 character, you become a size 2 character, which has its benefits and deficiencies. But any single target melee attack you would do, so attacks that don't have like an area effect, actually become /1. So it increases like the chance of you hitting multiple opponents because you're so big. As well as melee attacks gain +2 knockback on top of whatever other knockback you do deal or whatever other effect you would deal. So you're just bigger, stronger, and you get to like punt people because you're cool. And there's soaring transformation, which it's you spend a ferocity, you gain airborne, and you fly up to 4 in a straight line before or after making an attack. So kind of swooping in and out.
And can you like split that up between the attack? Or is that like specifically before and after, or after?
So like any attack. So you can fly. So I guess the wording's kind of unclear, but the intent is that you have to fly. You fly. You have to choose before or after the attack to use the
entire movement. Okay, I see. Or okay.
I guess you could. I guess I could make it so you can move up to 4 before and after the attack, so it'd be like split up, but. I don't know. We'll see. See if it's a problem. And then there's a bunch of attacks that you get. Horn. It's like they're all basic might melee physical attacks because you're a big, strong beast man. So they all do light damage and they all do various effects. Like Horn knocks people back 3. Chomp grapples people. Tail Whip makes them prone. Rending Claws deals shred 2. Then they have some other abilities that are like Deafening Roar. So if you use Roar, which is like the gain resource mechanic, everybody adjacent to you gains slowed, which means they lose 1 action because they're like, oh my god, this guy yelled really loud. And
yeah, sorry, go on.
No, what were you gonna say?
No, I think that's it's interesting that you can add like just adding something onto your recharging that also disrupts enemies around you.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of this class is just going to the thick of it anyway, right? So I wanted to build in some way where it's like even you gaining resources is still affecting the battle for this guy, for that move specifically. Apex Predator, you know the locations of invisible and hidden combatants, and they don't get any benefits from those conditions versus your actions. So you're just able to, people are trying to hide from you, they can't hide. I got the animal senses. And then lastly, there's 2 arts that you get, Savage and Wild. Savage pertains to single target melee attacks, and Wild pertains to area melee attacks. You spend 1 ferocity and 2 ferocity for the latter, and basically you get to repeat that attack to somebody that's within range of the single target attack, or you can attack the same person. Or for the Wild, you can use 2 area of effects, and they can overlap if they wanted to. So you can like attack multiple foes or attack, a bigger area. For instance, if you had like a slash attack, you can do 2 slashes. You can overlap those slash attacks. So it just gives you a little bit more flexibility for 2 ferocity.
Ooh, okay, I see.
Additionally, specifically, these arts do not change the attack level. So if you use this arts on a basic attack, it still counts as a basic attack, which means that you can apply like more arts on top of that if you wanted to. So you can have like, I don't know, like a blazing giga breaker horn, savage horn attack or something like that. And that's kind of the fun of Grand Saga, where you just stack these arts and attack names so they become like really anime. And you start yelling out your special attacks and stuff like that.
Yeah, which you should be doing anyways.
Yeah, that's like, if you're not doing that, then are you really playing Grand Saga? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's fun. Like again, I'm really liking the like just how the personality of the class comes out in the abilities that it has, and you have to make the choice on which ones you want to use. And again, like being able to mix those with other character abilities. Like I'm sure there's some broken combos in this game, but at the same time, that's kind of the point. It feels.
Yeah, almost definitely. Yeah, that's the idea. But I mean, the game is only as hard as your GM wants it to be.
Right.
Whenever we get to the actual enemy NPC section, you'll see that there's tons of abilities that are just as bad, or just ignore whatever your text says, or just says like, you don't get to play the game anymore because I'm better than you. I am the big bad guy. That kind of deal. So, you know, everyone's throwing nukes, and that's kind of the fun part of it.
Cool.
Yeah, but only if the GM wants to, mind you. There are just several layers of like, you can stack enemy NPCs to get something that's really nasty if you chose to challenge your players in that way. But if you guys are all just having fun, tons of easy breezy stuff, man.
Yeah, you have like a good range of enemy types.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Anything else you want to say about any of these three classes?
No, I think I like these classes. I mean, I like all the classes, but these were fun to put together. They have a pretty distinct flavor, and I'm definitely excited to see people's opinions about it. I'm worried that the Beast Cloak might be too strong. It is limited to their gauge ability. It's very much in their gauge ability. Same with the Artificier. Armor is like a pretty significant part of the game, so having something that can just blast through it, or even with like having lots of shred and stuff like that, is kind of interesting. We'll see how that turns out, but definitely I'm happy with the Bastion kind of turns out to be the big bulky man with the shield.
Yeah. Okay, then I think that's gonna cover everything for this particular episode. Again, we're gonna keep talking about these classes for some of these future episodes because there are quite a few of them to cover. But additionally, if you guys want to see more of this RPG, you can check out the link below to the Google document playtest draft. You can give it a look, you can give it a read through, send any sort of comments you have. There will be a link in the document to our website, wimwithice.ca, where you can head over to the contact page and then just drop a comment there, or reach out to us through the comments on the video or on Twitter or anywhere else you can find us, even our email. It's hidden somewhere out there. You have to follow an ARG to find it. You don't actually. It's like on our about page or something. But anyways.
Yeah, it's a very bad ARG.
Again, like I want to see what people think of this as well. So I want to see, like, I like the development process. So I want to know like how that goes and how people feel about the game as it goes on. But otherwise, that's gonna close it for this episode. So if you're interested in seeing more from us, you can check out links below to I have some of our streams are linked below, or you can check them out on the channel. You can check out any of our other videos or follow us on Twitters until we get to 500, and then I can start posting all the good stuff over here. Additionally, there's links below to all sorts of fun Lancer creators that we've talked to over the past years, because we've been doing this for years. Additionally, I want to make sure to shout out the Untold Stories Project, where I'm at on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, playing in their superhero games, because the schedule has changed up. The Freedom League Dark is back, baby. So if you want to hear me talk like this for 3 hours, be sure to come by on Wednesdays. But that is everything for this episode. Ramon, anything else you want to say before we head off?
Nah, go check out the game, guys. I hope you guys have fun testing this thing out.
All right. Well, for all of our shielding GMs and players out there, just remember to keep on winning with dice. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.